So there's really not that much more that this track needs for mastering, although I'm a big fan of saturation in mastering. A little background, many moons ago when I just went from analog recording and mixing to digital. This was still very new at the time. I just couldn't find the sound that I was looking for in digital like I was used to in analog. And it wasn't before probably 3 or 4 years later that I realized, or well, actually, somebody told me that saturation is the key to warmth in a mix. And especially in digital, that is completely lacking the warmth that saturation brings. So, FabFilter makes a fantastic saturator, a very versatile one. It's called Saturn. Saturn 2 is the latest incarnation. And even, you're not going to believe this, but even just inserting it on the master on its default state, which is warm tape, can bring a lot of warmth and body to a mix. Let me just play the track and turn it on and off. All right, this is with it on. This is off. So how about that? It shaves off the harsh transients. It gives it a nice saturated low end. So I would advise find a good sounding saturation plugin for mastering and also for mixing. Of course, you can use this all over the place should you need it. Just to go over it real quick. Again, the big knob in the middle is the drive. This is where you set the amount of distortion / saturation. It's actually a multi-band saturator. So I can create more bands and saturate each one individually. This is, of course, the frequency spectrum. Right? So it's already behaving differently because I divided the frequency spectrum into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bands, right? Each band can have a crossover ranging from 6 dB all the way up to 48 dB per octave. My advice would be to keep those crossovers as gentle as possible to create as little artifacts as possible between the bands. And then each of these bands has its own drive, its own algorithm chooser, because it's got a lot of different algorithms. See? Even up to transformers and amplifiers, special effects. I've never used any of these, but if you're in the type of music that uses these, then by all means, go ahead and use them. But right now, we're focusing on the mastering. Each band, by the way, also has its own 4-band EQ. So you even get to beef up the mid-range of the mid-range right here. Let me just quickly do what I set out to do. I'm going to leave all these bands right here. But the high frequencies, especially on the warm tape algorithm, if you really drive those a bit, they can start to sound really analog. Listen. And if that is too much, you can always bring back the band itself a bit. Then you got the option to actually mix in this entire setting to your liking. So let's say we want to maybe use it on 70%. Turn this off. That sounds a whole lot more static than with the saturator, right? So again, just like with compression, I normally have this on my master, not this particular setting per se, but usually on warm tape when I'm producing and when I'm mixing. I don't leave this until the mastering stage, to be honest, because I think it's a very inspiring sound and it helps me actually to produce music. You can use the Saturn 2 in linear phase, should you want to, and it's got a couple options for oversampling. I would always, especially when you render your track to a final mixdown, put it on superb, which is double oversampled, because that just minimizes the distortion and aliasing. I mean, the bad distortion, the digital distortion. So that is Saturn.